Now, the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has redeployed all of its eThekwini and Msunduzi EXCO members. This includes eThekwini Mayor Zandile Gumede. Provincial Secretary Mdumiseni Ntuli said this is as a result of the decline in quality of service delivery.
The PEC also agreed that the continuous and sustained decline of the quality of service delivery in our biggest two cities of eThekwini Metropolitan and Msunduzi Local Municipality require an urgent attention. The PEC reaffirmed the correctness of the decision it took a few months ago, wherein it called for the provincial government to place Msunduzi Local Municipality under administration. In this regard, the Provincial Executive Committee also decided that all ANC members who are serving as EXCO members of eThekwini and Msunduzi local municipalities, respectively, should with immediate effect be redeployed. The PEC mandated the Provincial Working Committee to working through the officials to ensure that all vacancies occasioned by these decisions are filled within 7 days from today. The Provincial Executive Committee also directed the Provincial Working Committee to ensure that vacancies occasioned by deployment of some of our comrades to the provincial and national legislatures are equally filled within the same period of 7 days from today. Because all of these were waiting for us to conclude the assessment so that we're in a better position to know who should go where and whether or not we should just fill one vacancy or there is a need for us to have some kind of an overhaul in order to speed up and enhance the level of service delivered. We're very convinced, we're convinced that the absence of change of leadership, we're convinced that the absence of change of leadership in some of these municipalities is certainly a prescription for inability, and if it remains unattended, will tarnish the confidence and the image of the ANC as the preeminent leader of the National Democratic Revolution.
Meanwhile, the KZN PEC has raised concerns over what they call the sustained public assault on President Ramaphosa. Referring to the President Ramaphosa's ongoing CR17 funding campaign saga, Ntuli says this is a clear attempt to distract the president.
The PEC also agreed that the continuous and sustained decline of the quality of service delivery in our biggest two cities of eThekwini Metropolitan and Msunduzi Local Municipality require an urgent attention. The PEC reaffirmed the correctness of the decision it took a few months ago, wherein it called for the provincial government to place Msunduzi Local Municipality under administration. In this regard, the Provincial Executive Committee also decided that all ANC members who are serving as EXCO members of eThekwini and Msunduzi local municipalities, respectively, should with immediate effect be redeployed. The PEC mandated the Provincial Working Committee.
That is from the report that was released at the media briefing by the PEC in KZN. I'm now joined on the line by political analyst Sanusha Naidu. A very good afternoon to you, Sanusha. So finally, we know the news coming in from the KZN ANC PEC is that Zandile Gumede is no longer the mayor. She and other officials have been redeployed. Now, won't you give us an idea and your reaction on this particular announcement? It has been a long time coming, deliberations on the future of Gumede. Is it what you had expected or anticipated?
Well, I think in terms of what the ANC needed to do, I think it was part of how they needed to essentially decide what was the future of the former mayor and, of course, the other officials that were also announced in this press conference. What's also important for us to bear in mind here is that it has been a protracted set of issues. And that protracted set of issues have not resolved itself. When you look at and you read and you listen to the statement that was issued today with regard to the beleaguered former mayor, it says she and other officials will be redeployed. And I think that in itself needs to be understood in the context of what were the grievances and the consequences of what the court had ruled in terms of the role that the former mayor played. And I think to a large extent it means that the situation is not resolved. It still remains part and parcel of how the ANC is going to deal with an issue where there's levels of corruption, there's allegations of malfeasance and other areas of lack of transparency, the use of state money in an irregular manner. And all of this comes back to the point about how are you going to deal with these issues internally. Now, we're hearing through this media statement that the PwC, in terms of their meeting, etc., they argued that these were issues that have been long-standing issues, and they've been issues that have been of grave concern to them for a period of time. And they mentioned both the Pietermaritzburg municipality, or Msunduzi municipality, and the eThekwini municipality, where they feel that these governance questions have come to the fore and have not been addressed, or they have brought the party and the party's governance into disrepute in terms of the risk and the negative imaging. But it doesn't mean that they've resolved the issue. Yes, you've decided that you'll relieve the mayor of her duties, but there's still a court case pending. But we want to see what will be the internal dynamics of dealing with these individuals, which in the press statement that was given, that is currently ongoing, I think they keep talking about having to have people that are of merit, who can do the job, and who have a sense of obligation to the party's processes and the way the party wants to carry out its and execute its mandate. This is not telling us what's going to happen thereafter. And I still have a bit of reservation that this is not an issue that's going to go away. I think the former mayor has shown, in terms of the support base she has at the grassroots in KZN, that this is going to be a protracted battle.
Made very clear, Sanusha, is the fact that this is beyond the now former mayor, Zandile Gumede, that the PEC as well as the PwC were looking at issues of the general holistic performance of KZN as a local government. Do you think that this was also part of the reason to deflect the attention from Zandile Gumede, that it's not so much about her as an individual, so she doesn't look like she's being targeted, but it's her as well as 9 others that are now going to be redeployed?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, you can't just put the blame at one particular individual. I think there's processes and there's individuals whom, according to the statement, they in terms of some of the observations made by the PwC, you looked at questions of inability to raise revenue due to infrastructure deficiencies. Various municipality grants were not properly dispersed due to poor planning. I think there's a question of whether the broader governance dynamics and execution of bureaucratic duties were being carried out, and were people basically executing their mandate in terms of the portfolio and the positions they held and the job description that they were supposed to have carried out in terms of their duties. And I think to a large extent this is possibly not just about the mayor, although it's difficult not to see how this ties in to some of the questions that were raised in terms of the Hawks investigation into the mayor and this cleaning company, and all of those questions around state capture and, of course, irregular tender processes and manipulation. But I think to a large extent it's not just in terms of the 9 officials. I think there's a broader political standoff taking place in the province between how this is playing out in the context of factionalism. And one of the things that came very clearly through the press briefing now is the support to the Ramaphosa camp in the province in terms of this of what the PwC spokesperson is saying in the media statement. And I think that's very clearly being drawn as the battle lines.
Now let's look at the statements that were made earlier on today, the fact that the decisions taken today regarding KZN specifically are to ensure that the ANC maintains its integrity, that the leadership that is at the helm is leadership that is competent and able to deliver the work. And yet the statement that has been given out is that they are being redeployed. They are not relieved of their duties within the ANC completely, but they're going to be taken elsewhere. Do you think that this move is enough of a statement to reaffirm the ethics and the integrity that the ANC was founded on?
Well, I think, in a normal, in a perfect world, you would actually not redeploy an individual. You would essentially decide there'll be an internal process. Now, remember, there's a judicial process that's going to happen where the former mayor has to reappear, and she's currently out on bail. So she has a legal judicial process that she has to contest in terms of her appearance before the judiciary. And then, of course, there needs to be an internal dynamic around the process, as you rightly said, competency, integrity, credibility. Was this individual the right individual in the first place? So I think to a large extent what you are seeing now is it tells you how fragile the situation is, not just in KZN, but I think across the country as well, where you have to think about the wording and how the subtlety of the wording says we're not basically putting this person under a microscope and we're going to have an internal commission of inquiry or internal inquiry, vet this, the process, look at what has been the issues, and of course deal with this. But you talk about redeployment. Is redeployment the way in which you create competency, in the way that you restore integrity, and of course meritocracy in terms of the kinds of bureaucrats you need to put into place in order to see the provincial affairs of a province or even of a local government being executed in the proper bureaucratic mandate? And I think that's the challenge. So I think that in itself tells me that it's a very delicate political situation right now within the province.
Tembo did not elaborate on who the potential new leaders would be, but if you had to put a bet on anybody, who would you finger out for the leadership?
I'm so bad at betting, I don't even win anything. So I'm very scared to hedge my bets. I think that maybe for the interim, we're going to continue with what we see with the acting mayor in. But, the problem there as well is that people have become really... in a way, they've shown their disillusionment, their discontent with an interim committee that's going to be in place. And we've heard about the alleged poisoning of the water and so forth. And more recently, there was another incident of that nature. So I'm not sure who they're going to put in and whether that's going to be a committee or a group of people that's going to satisfy these different tensions that are emerging around the political power struggle that's taking place in the province. And I wouldn't want to hazard a guess and say this individual or that individual. I think it's really fragile at this moment. I'm not sure how the chips are going to fall in terms of that, but I'm not necessarily thinking that they probably will apply their minds even further. And of course, I don't think it's going to end anytime soon in terms of the battle lines. I think we're going to continue to see contestation in the province like elsewhere, but we're going to continue to see people trying to remain in their positions. And of course, whether this goes away through redeployment, I'm not so sure about that either. So whoever's going to come in, I think they'll have to, whoever committee comes in and takes over from the current or the outgoing committee, they have to have their mettle about them and be completely alert and on their toes.
Well, thank you very much, Sanusha. That's political analyst there, Sanusha Naidu, on what her bets are. But not much longer to wait, not much longer to wait. The PwC has been instructed that within 7 days, the leadership needs to be restored and all those vacant posts filled. Our reporter, Karinda Jagmohan, is currently at the ANC provincial headquarters in Durban, and she joins us live now. Karinda, we spoke round about, I think about 12:30ish or so before the start of this conference. What is the atmosphere like at the moment post the announcement that Zandile Gumede, as well as 9 others, are no longer in the EXCO, no longer in the leadership of eThekwini, and also to add Msunduzi?
Well, it has been a flurry of activity outside the ANC provincial headquarters. As you have heard, Zandile Gumede and other EXCO members, not just of the eThekwini municipality, but also the struggling Msunduzi municipality, which has been placed under administration, have all been redeployed. This means they've been removed from their positions and will now be placed into other positions within the municipality. There are still, of course, councillors within those municipalities. And soon after the announcement was made, now we come outside to see it is quite quiet outside. There are still armoured vehicles here, and we understand that they will be here as we believe that supporters are expected to be protesting either today or a bit later in the week, of course, against the decision to redeploy these EXCO council members.
Now, the state of eThekwini in general was discussed, and there was a question, what is wrong with eThekwini? Highlight for us what some of those areas were that are of grave concern and are the reasons why there has been a huge decline in service delivery.
Well, one of the two major issues that the ANC KZN Secretary Mdumiseni Ntuli touched on is in fact, firstly, the issue regarding billing. There has been issues with billing systems within the municipality, leading to some residents getting bills that are thousands of rands, simply impossible for a small household to have, for their own bills. Another issue that was touched on was with regards to waste management, and this has been an issue for a very long time in the city, where if you go into areas, especially informal settlements or township areas, there's waste lying around because it has not been collected for days, with Ntuli saying that this is a basic service that should be given to the people, but yet it is not managed thoroughly. And I just want to go back to the point that the mayor, Zandile Gumede, or rather now former mayor, was initially arrested due to her being linked to a fraudulent tender for the Durban solid waste itself. This tender was over 200 million rand. So of course we can see some connections there.
And there was also the issue, Corinda, of employment. And
well, also I just want to tell you before we continue, I do have the spokesperson for ANC KZN, Ricardo Mtembo. Thank you very much for joining us live on Newsroom Africa. You have just informed us that EXCO members of both the eThekwini municipality and Msunduzi municipality have been redeployed. Tell us about the process going forward. You've said that the ANC plans to fill these vacant positions within the next 7 days. What is the process going forward? We asked if you have a preferred candidate, and also, where are these EXCO members going to? Where will Zandile Gumede go to now?
Yeah, well, thanks very much. I think, as we have said when we were conducting the media briefing, that the ANC is a movement that is structured. When we deal with issues, regardless of their nature, we have a structure called officials, which are tasked by the Provincial Working Committee to look specifically on cadres and assess the best cadres that can be deployed to execute the responsibilities, of course, desired by the organization. So therefore, we are going to allow the officials to sit, but it must be within these 7 days. But they will be sitting, looking, because we do not want to do things just for the sake of doing it. What we are doing, we must remember, is to ensure that the society and the public at large trust and believe that the ANC indeed take them serious when it comes to governance issues, as it was explained inside.
Now, of course, just to make an example, the eThekwini municipality mayor, Zandile Gumede, you say she will be redeployed to another position within the municipality. But of course, a report has come out saying that eThekwini has failed under her leadership. Now, what does that say about the position that she will be redeployed to? Do you believe that she will indeed succeed in that particular position?
You must remember when the provincial secretary was explaining to you that the current Zandile, she's been redeployed as a mayor, or she's been taken away as a mayor, where we think there was a lack somehow. So therefore, where she will be deployed, the leadership will discuss, because as Nopala making an example, that you might be good as a speaker, not being good as a mayor. You might be good as a mayor, not being good as a speaker, which does not translate that indeed she'll be deployed there. But currently she's a councillor. And of course, we'll wait for the recommendations of the officials to say where they think Comrade Zandile can be deployed. They're still our comrades, and we still believe that they got something to offer the organization. So, yeah.
And so are you prepared, or is rather the ANC prepared for a backlash from the supporters of Zandile Gumede? We have seen them out on the streets of Durban before when she was placed on special leave. Now she's been redeployed, and there could be more protest surfacing. So are you prepared for this?
There are no Zandile supporters here. The people are members of the ANC. And they understand the constitution of the ANC, they understand how the ANC operates. So there is nothing, we are not prepared for any clash, because these are our members, and they understand that the leadership will be required some time to take decisions which are not favorable to us as individuals. How we react is another matter, but we are not preparing any backlash. Instead, as an ANC, we are having a program to go and take them through of our decision, so that they don't get it only on the media, but they are briefed by the leadership in terms of the direction that the ANC is taking. So that's what we are doing.
Well, thank you very much for joining us live on Newsroom Africa. That is, of course, the spokesperson for ANC in KZN, Ricardo Mtembo. Apologies for that delay, but of course we had to grab him before he heads back to the provincial headquarters.
Well, very good spotting there, Corinda. This is the man of the moment that we needed to speak to at the time. But one question that, I've been going through some of the tweets and the reactions from South Africans in general. And one of the statements that really seems to be reverberating from South Africans, according to Twitter, is the fact that it was said that the ANC wants to ensure that all of its leadership are beyond reproach, both in their public lives and in their private lives. And how does that then reconcile with a redeployment of those who are found to be questionable in their duty?
Well, we have asked questions to the ANC. We've put questions to the ANC about this issue of redeployment, because as it was understood that the EXCO members would in fact be removed from their positions. But what the Secretary Mdumiseni Ntuli has to say instead is that just because they have failed in their current positions of leadership, so for example, the eThekwini Mayor Zandile Gumede has been reported to have failed in her leadership of the municipality, they say it does not mean she has something to offer the people in another position. And just to give you an example, the KZN spokesperson for the ANC, Ricardo Mtembo, was formerly the mayor of the KwaZulu-Natal municipality for about 8 years before he stepped down from that position to now serve as the spokesperson of the party. So it seems that what the party will be doing going forward is, of course, reassessing their members that have now been removed to see what values they can use from those members to redeploy them in other areas. So we're actually yet to see where Zandile Gumede and obviously her counterparts in Msunduzi municipality are going to be redeployed to next.
Well, thank you very much, Corinda. We certainly will be keeping abreast of the situation, and within the next 7 days, we should, according to the projected timelines, have an indication of who will be deployed into the new positions of leadership and where those who have now left their posts will be found.